Yesterday, the Supreme Court heard arguments in Trump's quest to dismantle birthright citizenship. Trump himself was there in an unprecedented moment of the president actually attending a Supreme Court argument. We'll talk more about that. Meanwhile, the government is still partially shut down. Gas and food prices are soaring, and as we are recording this, the U.S. is likely on the verge of putting boots on the ground in Iran. There's the SAVE Act, and AI, and whatever is going on with Kristi Noem and her husband. And if you're a parent, this is also spring break time. So the kids are out of school and everything's just going great. So if you're like me, probably feeling a little overstimulated right now. And when everything feels overwhelming, it's easy to start thinking that there's not much that you can do about it. That is not true. In November, we have midterm elections, and there are a number of elections in between now and then that are incredibly important and going to help determine the path forward. All of us will have an opportunity to say, enough is enough with this administration. It's time to start thinking about what that looks like. Let's jump right in. This is Drawing the Line. I'm Marina Jenkins. I'm here with John Bisognano.
Hello. Talking about elections. We got elections coming up.
So many elections.
I know, we're talking about November, and of course, everyone can get involved in November, but why wait?
Why wait?
You live in Wisconsin. Now's the time.
Let's start. Let's start there. So the Wisconsin election for the next justice of the Wisconsin Supreme Court is next Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's so soon.
I know. I thought it was I told someone yesterday it's 3 weeks away.
Yeah. How we are in April boggles my mind. But we're here, and AG Holder is on the road in Wisconsin as we speak to support Judge Chris Taylor. And Judge Taylor also got another incredibly important endorsement this week. Who endorsed Chris Taylor?
I believe it was President Obama.
Who's that guy?
Is that who you're referring to?
That is who I'm referring to. I was hoping you were like,
could have been anybody. Everyone's on board. So, but yeah, no, I think a very high profile, very exciting endorsement from President Obama. AG Holder on the ground, which he has been, and NDRC has been involved in these races for years now. Which is going back to, I think it was April of 2018, maybe 2019. I forget. Feels like yesterday, and also a billion years ago. What a different time. But yeah, they're so important. And just to give folks a quick reminder, it's not a special election, or they're not entirely bizarre for the folks in Wisconsin. If you live in Wisconsin, you know this, but there are April elections almost every year for where you are. And so it's important to organize. The electorate is different, and it's harder to reach people, and obviously harder to remind people than November, just like every election doesn't happen on a presidential election or something, but it is more normal than not. It's not just kind of dropped in the middle, which we've seen in places from time to time too. So yeah, it's not a special, happens every year, but super critical to ensuring that Supreme Court is able to function in a way that is forward leaning and frankly at all rational, given what Scott Walker had turned that court into over the past decade. And so it's been a long road back, but it's hopefully next Tuesday we continue that road.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we have to remind ourselves what a success story Wisconsin really has been. There's still so much work to be done, but the Wisconsin, it was like in the, after the 2011 redistricting cycle, the state was so horribly gerrymandered, and it has taken so much work to get back to a place where there are, decent maps at the state legislative level, and, we're in court. Well, not, sort of the royal we, there are fair maps advocates that are working in court right now as we speak in Wisconsin to get a fair congressional map. And there's just an incredible opportunity to flip both state legislative chambers this fall. So there's just a lot of really exciting momentum in Wisconsin. This has been years in the making.
I will say that Wisconsin is not just a success story for us as an organization, which it certainly is. Everyone that has volunteered and worked alongside us over the past number of years, everyone should feel really good about what's happened in Wisconsin. But I think it's also really important to recognize that it's not just not just a success story, but it's like a comeback story. And it should be a blueprint for the way that we continue to work. What Donald Trump is doing right now in the White House is not entirely dissimilar from the way that Scott Walker carried himself during most of the years he was governor in Wisconsin. And he ran a ship in that state that essentially decimated working people and just decided that he was going to do literally whatever he wanted. He broke rules consistently. He installed Supreme Court justices that he was going to have support from. He tried to create a small little case study of an authoritarian regime. And it was successful for him for a number of years. You may recall he lost in 2018. He slowly lost support over time. The people continued to have their voice. Voters were heard eventually. And then that comeback story has continued to roll. So just not 2 years ago, we finally had fair maps at the state legislative level, which is incredible. So now we have an opportunity for both parties to compete for the state legislative chambers in that state. And I do envision a world in which down the road here, we're looking at a normal functioning democracy in Wisconsin, which unfortunately for some time, it did not feel that way. Insert quote from Marina about it not being a functional democracy.
So Wisconsin election, April 7th. If you live in Wisconsin, make sure you vote for Judge Taylor. If you have friends and family who live in Wisconsin, pick up the phone, text them, call them. Make sure they have a plan to vote and they're getting out on April 7th for Judge Taylor. Very, very exciting. And this month there's also another very big election happening in Virginia. We've been talking about this and it is here. The time is now. There is early voting ongoing in Virginia up until April 18th. And you can vote early or vote by mail in Virginia, despite the president's executive order. You can do those things. He does not get to decide. You can vote early and you can vote by mail in Virginia to vote yes on the ballot initiative to ensure that we have a government that is accountable to the people. And that is what Donald Trump is trying to avoid. So if you're planning to vote by mail, it's very important that your ballot be requested by April 10th. Do not wait until the last minute to vote by mail. There are going to be challenges either in this coming election, for sure in the fall, we know, based on what the president is doing already and what Republicans have said about their plans to challenge mail-in voting at both macro and micro levels. So do not wait if you're planning to vote by mail. Get on it. There's no reason you need to wait until the last minute. But if you do wait until the last minute, April 21st is election day. So you can go and you can vote then. You can go to virginiansforfairelections.com to get involved if you want to get out the vote in Virginia. It's very, very exciting. The last few weeks of this campaign, and we're feeling good. We're feeling good, but gotta work across the finish line.
And if you don't know where your polling location is, go to iwillvote.com. You can figure out where your polling location is. It will have all the information for you about how you vote, where you vote, and when to vote. Let's do it. Get out, Virginia. Let's go.
Let's do it.
It's coming up. It's fast. It's soon. It's exciting.
It's so soon. And AG Holder will be on the ground in Virginia as well. So we'll be excited we're going to get some of our team out on the doors, because you got to go knock the doors and make sure that Virginians know that they have this opportunity. Particularly, Virginia is a state that has been so specifically negatively impacted by this administration. I mean, the number of federal workers who live in Northern Virginia and, people who were just sort of haphazardly fired a year, it's like we almost forget. Everything is so crazy all the time that we forget what happened 9 months ago. But it is, and now we're getting all these decisions about there was a court decision the other day that obviously, what Trump is doing is unconstitutional, right? Obviously, well, I keep saying obviously. Thank you to all the people who brought those cases. And it's so infuriating that it takes, all this time and resources and energy and effort to get to a point where we can have some accountability on this president and say, actually, you can't just decide that you don't like NPR and PBS. That's not actually how this works. You can't just, you decide that you want to tear down part of the White House and build a ballroom that is going to be, I'm sure, as ostentatious and just tacky as everything else you've done to the White House, sir. So, that's where we are. Sorry. Side rant.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we're still a country of rules, I'm told. And so some of them are coming to roost for him at the court level. And it's interesting.
Yeah. All right. So the other state, when we stand states, and then I want to talk about a couple of things at the federal level, but let's talk about Florida. Florida is very interesting. We still anticipate a special session in Florida starting April 20th. So same week as the Virginia special election on changing the map in Virginia to fight back against Trump's gerrymandering crisis. And we are seeing some mixed signals now from Republicans in Florida. We've gotten a little bit of this over the last month or so, but it's really starting to heat up that there is real resistance among Republicans in Florida to what DeSantis wants to do to the map. Now, interestingly, it sounds like from, interviews that the Republicans map drawer has said that the map is not necessarily Trump's map that is going to be handed down the way things went in Texas, but that this is really DeSantis trying to be the big boss in the Florida redraw this month.
Yeah, I mean, look, people are starting to get scared. Republicans are getting scared. I understand why. The public doesn't want it. There's another poll came out today. It said well over 50% of people said they do not think that this is a good idea. Frankly, I think some of those are probably Republicans too. People, it's not simple what they're trying to do. And I think people sometimes forget, they look at this national crisis that Donald Trump has put us in, and they forget that Florida was already terribly gerrymandered. And then you got DeSantis going out and saying, I'm going to get 5 more seats. And when I understand, in the amorphic saying, I want to be strong and I'm going to take more seats and I'm going to do all this stuff because I'm going to run for president and I need it to be in my primary or whatever. But when push comes to shove, he has to actually draw a map that can do that and not deteriorate the districts around it such that all of his Republican colleagues could also lose if it's not a great cycle. And look, I'm not sure what this cycle is going to look like, but what I do know is we're still in a seemingly endless war. Gas is over $4 average. Groceries are spiking. Despite Pam Bondi's assertions, the Dow is down. It's like everything is flopping. And I would not. I understand. Let me say it this way. I understand why a lot of these Republicans are nervous that DeSantis is got seemingly retreated to a black box and just deciding he's going to draw this map himself, and it's going to be some kind of perfect scenario. It seems like a vanity project for him at this point.
It does not seem like it's going to go well for him, but we will continue to fight back. We will continue to push against this effort, and certainly we will see what DeSantis decides that he's going to try and do.
And look, the people that don't like it right now, the people that are coming out, one, voters, right? Like people don't want it. That we knew that's consistent.
Yeah.
2, the people that are coming out against it are like members of Congress that stand to lose stuff in their districts and they stand to have their districts change. I understand why they're nervous. Again, I think that it's going to be a difficult cycle for them, even as is, let alone with a much harder district. And then 3rd, the people that are coming out for it are just seemingly people that want to look strong. Like Byron Donalds today was like, I'm with DeSantis. Not like I understand the map dynamics. I understand what I'm trying to do. Just like, I think we should take as many gerrymandered seats as we possibly can. Great. You want to come out and make you want to feel brave, you want to feel strong, have a blast. But when push comes to shove, you're going to have to actually put something forward that is going to do what you say it's going to do. And I don't know how he's going to do that.
I mean,
God forbid one of the districts looks like a white boot. One of them is going to look like a boot. We know that. Of course it is. And everybody's going to talk about it.
Exactly. Well, I was going to say, it's thank goodness Byron Donalds let us know what he was thinking. I was waiting. I really, waiting with bated breath to know where Byron Donalds stood on DeSantis's map.
Now we know.
Now we know. Now we can move forward. Now we can all
move forward together.
Move forward because we needed that. So we'll keep folks posted. We have a lot of work that's going into fighting back. And a lot of so many incredible advocates on the ground in Florida. Remember, Florida was somewhat ahead of the curve in terms of the fight for fair maps, because when the ballot initiative for what are called the Fair Districts Amendments, there are rules in Florida's constitution that protect against gerrymandering. Those rules have been shown to have not as strong teeth as we would have liked, given the state of Florida's state judiciary, but they do have those laws and they're very clear. And that was passed in 2010. So, this is
they're not even laws. It's a constitution. They're going to be faced with saying the Constitution's unconstitutional. I don't know how one does that with a straight face.
The mental gymnastics that you have to go through to be a judge who is supporting DeSantis, Trump, there's a long list, but it's so intellectually dishonest. And so we'll see what they do. And if they decide that the sentence, you may not partisan gerrymander in Florida, means actually you can gerrymander in Florida. We'll see how they make that, how they circle that square. All right. So a lot of really good stuff moving in the states. Very quickly before we move to national items, on the litigation front, the Utah Republicans' attempt to repeal independent redistricting has failed. They did not get enough signatures to put on the ballot in Utah and a ballot initiative that would have taken away the redistricting reform that was put in place by Utah voters just a few years ago. So that's an incredible victory for the folks in Utah, led by a great partner of ours, Better Boundaries, awesome organization, and just really, really excited about all the incredible work that the folks in Utah have done. So just really, really great to see the people being able to have their voices heard and have their say, and the legislature and the politicians not being able to just take that away because they want to. So good news out of Utah. At a national level, we are still tracking very closely the SAVE Act, though it has stalled. This is good news.
Called the Save Republican Act now?
The Save Republicans Act, right.
I don't know who said that originally. I want to give credit where credit's due. I saw Pete Aguilar say it, and I thought it was very funny. So
yeah, no, it's a good one.
We'll use it. I'll give him that credit.
And accurate. That is what they're trying to do. And they're not hiding the ball. They're openly saying, if we pass this, Trump is openly saying, if we pass this, Democrats can't win. Like, that is the explicit intent of his legislative priority. This is the thing he said, nothing else could pass if he didn't get this. And that, so the thing that he was prioritizing over every other legislative item and every other policy issue, every other issue that American families across the country are facing, he's like, no. Before we can deal with any of that, we need to make sure that Democrats can never win elections. That is what's happening. Like this, that is.
Let us recall from the peak of Trump quotes. If we go back to last year, around when Texas was happening, like when he began this, we're going to gerrymander the whole country and make sure that we don't lose the House. He said in public, out loud, to other people, to other human beings, he said, if we stop vote by mail, which the SAVE Act ostensibly tries to do, and gerrymander as much as possible, Republicans will win in the midterms 100 seats. He said that to people.
Just insane. I mean, it's just like
100
not
seats.
True. Like even if he got his way, that's crazy. But also
that's
to
like,
say that
like
and to be like, this
Putin
is what I
level.
want.
That's like beyond a full-scale rigged election. That's just like crazy.
Just pretend pretend democracy. We'll have elections, but we're going to make sure that only my political party wins. Like, last I checked, we don't live in Russia. Yeah. This is not how the U.S. is supposed to operate, people.
But to your point, the SAVE Act has stalled.
Yes.
And thus,
because he can't achieve it legislatively, he is trying to issue by fiat, by executive order, an announcement that we're no longer going to support
fiat.
Fiat?
Yeah. What the hell is that?
Fiat.
That's a car. That was my first car.
No, fiat. It's like a pronouncement. It's
It's a small car, but it's an Italian car. It's small.
A fiat is an authoritative, arbitrary order or decree issued by someone in power.
Okay.
This is
also a car.
It is also a car, but
I
like
thought you were saying he was issuing
an Odyssey is a car, but like we know that Odyssey is also a word.
Sure, if you say so.
And it's going to be a movie, so
great.
So
please continue. I'm sorry for interrupting. Trump's fiat orders.
We contain multitudes. He issued an executive order, a fiat, if you will, on voting, again, trying to diminish the ability for voters across the country to vote in a safe and reasonable manner. There's no reason, there's no reason to be doing this other than, as you noted, as he has been very explicitly communicating, he is trying to make sure the voters that he thinks will support him are able to vote and nobody else can. That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah, and I think we understand this at this point, right?
Yeah.
He knows that on the broad scale, if everybody voted in this country, he would have huge problems in the midterms. They would win. They would lose maybe 100 seats, like he said, on the other way. But not everybody votes, and I think we understand that. And that's a lot of the work that I've done historically in my career has been focused on organizing. And like when you're organizing, you're in the field, you're talking to voters. What you're trying to do is both and this may be what people are more familiar with, convince voters that your candidate is the right choice. Like for sure, you're trying to do that, but also. And frequently you're trying to get people to make a plan to vote. You're trying to ensure they get out to vote, because so much of the work that gets done on the ground is just focused on telling people you do have to vote. This is when the election is, because it's hard. It's complicated when you get a normal life and you're like trying to do your day to day. And then you remember, oh, it's Tuesday. I forgot I had to go vote. And then you got to figure out what time you're going to vote. So it is important that you make a plan for when you're going to vote. If you're an election day voter, make your plan. If you want to vote by mail, make sure that you request it. But what he's trying to do is put walls up around the different available tools to vote, right? Like he has looked at data analysis clearly. He believes more of his type of Republicans vote in person. So he says, all right, great. Let's try and limit voting by mail. And I don't even think that's universal across states. It certainly wasn't universal over time. I know COVID changed a bunch, but realistically, when you do look at the data, you can start to understand what he's trying to do. He's trying to say, actually, what would be best for me is if just this group of people voted, this group of probably whiter, more rural people that will support or more likely to support me. And if that group has a higher percentage of voting than they do in a normal election because other people aren't able to vote, or we don't have vote by mail, or they can't get to the polls, then I'll do better. I'll perform better. Republicans will perform better. And that is the most anti-democratic thing one can say. Right? Like what our goal has always been, have more people vote. If everybody voted, it would be better. We're trying to get as many people to vote as possible. And then you see what he's trying to do is just put these walls up and say, please don't let this type of voting happen. Don't let this type of person vote. And now with this, he's signing an executive order to try and move forward some of these measures, which is totally unconstitutional and already been challenged in courts, and it will continue to get challenged, I imagine, many times. But what he's trying to do is put those walls up and force states to comply with them, and trying to ensure that across the board, the electorate looks like what he wants it to look like and smaller. It's scary. It's like, this is like, it's odd too. And I think this is important to understand, because when you think about presidential, a question that I get pretty frequently is like, why hasn't this happened before? It applies to redistricting. Like, why hasn't a president just pushed the pedal to the metal like he is currently doing? And it applies to this voting rights and the electorate stuff too, because what you're looking at for the first time in history is a president that doesn't believe he can win a fair fight, right? He knows he can't. He knows that the legislation that he's already passed, like the big, beautiful budget or whatever the shit it's called, and like all the other stuff, the Epstein files, like you go down a long list of why we're in a terrible place in this country, why his approval rating is the worst it's ever been. But he knows he can't win a fair fight. And up until now, if for nothing else, presidents had an ego that wouldn't allow them to believe they couldn't win a fair fight, right? They would feel some level of anxiety about trying to reshape voting patterns or voting lines. He has zero shame, right? He has zero ability to look in the mirror and say, I could win if I really I think I can convince people that I'm doing as good as I can. He doesn't believe it. He knows he can't. So now he's just saying, I actually have to reshape the electorate and make it look like I need it to look, which is a scary proposition. Again, I don't want to speak all the way back. I'm not a historian. I don't want to go back to the 1800s if somebody has tried to reshape the electorate. I'm sure there are many different mechanisms people have used over time. But in modern history, we haven't had a president that's ego has allowed him to simply declare defeat this early and say, we need to change all the rules. Like the bizarre part, I know I'm on a rant, sorry, but the bizarre part about the what you got Mike Lee out here stumping for the SAVE Act. And he's saying Republicans won't be able to win as many elections if we don't pass this bill. And you're right, that's blatantly anti-democratic. Also, you have to appreciate that they currently hold, coming off the most recent election, they currently hold all the chambers. They hold the presidency, they hold the House, and they hold the Senate. And coming off of that, they're saying, for us, it's impossible to win if we don't change the rules now.
Yeah. It's the thing is, he's trying to change the electorate and he's trying to change the country. I think that it's very easy for me to get pretty riled up about this stuff pretty quickly. And, I think when you really stop and think about it, and, the fact that he attended the birthright citizenship case yesterday and that no sitting president has ever done that. And I think the Supreme Court, for all of our criticism, I think appropriate criticism of the Supreme Court over many years, right? This isn't something that just started last year or within the Trump era even, but the court being so in his pocket is a real problem, right? Like for all of our criticism of the Supreme Court is still supposed to be the sort of last bastion of an independent arm of our government, right? Congress has shown itself to be completely inept, right? Like Speaker Johnson basically just refusing to have an independent thought in his brain, other than just whatever Trump wants, Trump gets, right? Like the as a body, they have been falling on their face in terms of doing their constitutional obligations, in terms of war, right? In terms of the budget and our economy, right? Like they're just allowing Trump to do whatever the fuck he wants. And the court, I think there is still an idea, and maybe I'm just because I'm a lawyer and I still have too deep in the recesses of my brain and my heart, this idea and hope that the Supreme Court could remain and have some level of independence. And, I think the idea and the visual, obviously we don't have visuals because there's no cameras allowed inside the court, but the idea that you have President Trump, first president ever to go and sit in the courtroom. And it's not a big space. I mean, this is the thing about the Supreme Court. It is not a large space. And so the justices are up on the dais and, behind the bench, there are a couple rows of tables where the lawyers for each side sit. There's 4 tables to have enough room for all the lawyers. And then you have a row where, the lawyers from the Solicitor General's office and other lawyers can sit. And then you just you have 10 rows back of people who have gone to watch the proceedings. It's a very small space. And so him being there, he's in their face. He is personally in their face as they're having this. And the only reason for him to be there is to try to influence them, to try to bully them. I mean, he's just a bully. That is who he is at the core of his person. And the idea that on this, and such an incredibly important and fundamental issue as to like what it is that our Constitution says and what kind of country we are, and what our founding documents mean, and when he wants them to mean something that is completely opposite of what the words on the page actually say, his thought process, his strategy is, I'm just going to go bully these people into submission. And he thinks that he can do that. And it's going to be, I think that this case, maybe more than most others, will tell us whether there is an independent bone left in the Supreme Court or not. Anyway, that was my rant.
We will see.
We will see. Speaking of the Supreme Court, we're still waiting on Calais, which is our important case. Sorry, what did you say?
I just said, what a joke, having him go. Like, just go. Like, he goes and sits in the front row. It's also like, I've seen a lot of people be like, he's trying to intimidate the court like a mob boss or something. And a mob boss would never do that. A mob boss would not go to a court without being summoned to a court. It is such a bizarre, like, reframing of, like, it's like he watched The Godfather and learned what no one else learned. Like, it's like, it doesn't make any sense either. It's just such a, like, he thinks he's going to intimidate them, which I think probably makes them feel even more uncomfortable. Yeah. Like, the reality, the path for them, if they were, which seemingly they're not, but if they were planning to vote in his favor, I feel like only got more complicated by him sitting in the courtroom. And maybe he already knew he was going to lose, or maybe like the seemingly his, the Solicitor General was not terribly prepared.
No.
Given them.
Well, and that's the thing, is that he doesn't take it seriously enough.
Right.
Like, it's like, if you want, like, that might work if he even pretended that they need to actually have good lawyers who like argue the law and are prepared. And like, like the example that I think a lot of folks have talked about already is this exchange with Justice Gorsuch, who, surprisingly, perhaps Justice Gorsuch is a, very, very right-wing jurist, but he is really good on Native American rights, on tribal issues. Always has been. He's from the 10th Circuit. He's from Colorado, right? Like, he is steeped in those issues personally and in his professional life. And, so he had this exchange with the Solicitor General about whether their new tests that they want to implement would apply to Native Americans, who obviously are indigenous to this country, have never immigrated from anywhere else. Like, do they not have citizenship by virtue of just being born in this country, that their ancestors were here thousands of years before any of the rest of our ancestors were? Like, and the Solicitor General's like, I don't know. I haven't thought about it.
I'll have to think about it. Yeah.
I got to think about that one. Like, how embarrassing.
How did you not prepare for that?
For you?
But as you said, like, Gorsuch, like, this is a thing for him. Everybody knows that. It's not like, oh, wow, he had some kind of arbitrary question out of left field. No one could have prepared for Gorsuch to be thinking. Like,
no one could have possibly known that Gorsuch would be interested in how this impacts Native Americans. Shocker. Just like the utter lack of preparedness, the other, like, just complete disrespect for the court. And so that's, I mean, they're so eager to do his bidding, but it's just like, I don't, it'll be interesting.
This does seem like the best lawyers.
Turns out actually getting rid of all the smart experts in government is not a good idea. Turns out. So here we are with a bunch of bozos running the government. God. All right, let's do it. Let's wrap it up. Thank you all for joining us. We will have there's so much happening this month. We'll be back with more soon. If you like our show, please follow us on YouTube and on Instagram at Dem Redistrict. You can go to visit our website at democraticredistricting.com. Again, I'm Marina, and here with John, and we will be back with more Drawing the Line very soon. Thanks for listening.
This show is produced by Reed Dudley, Sophia Pedroso, and Manuel Marce. Special thanks to Alex Yang. Editing and mixing by Play Pretend Media. This podcast is paid for by the National Democratic Redistricting Committee.